Chapter 51. You are listening at novelfull.audio. However, what is really shocking is that more than 10 million vampires can't even fill Adolf's stomach. Gurgling, without the continuous supply, the water level in the blood pool dropped at a speed of several meters per second, and eventually it was completely clean, with not a drop left. At the bottom of the blood pool, a half-human, half-bat monster looked up to the sky and howled heartily. The left side of Adolf's body is still the same as before, but the right half of his head and body look like a giant bat, covered with black body hair, and 10 blood-red holy wings behind him are blooming with a strange light. All the soldiers and guards of the Riefno clan turned pale with fright when they saw their ancestor turning into such an extremely evil look. Only Angus laughed so wildly. Ha ha ha, ancestor, how do you feel? Adolf took a deep breath and showed an expression of enjoyment. His voice sounded like a human being and a ghost. It's very comfortable. If I do this kind of blood sacrifice again, I will definitely be able to break through the current realm and step into the level of a half-step prince. That he knew he had gone astray, but so what? As long as the strength can reach the level of a half-step prince, no matter what he becomes, he is still a half-step prince. We are not far away from unifying Nicola, ancestors. Angus stuck out his tongue and licked his lips with bloodthirsty, his eyes cruel and ferocious. Who should we touch next? The Cape clan. He still remembers the hatred of his brother Arnold who was killed by Duke William. However, Adolf shook his head. Be careful. Apart from Setet, there is also a soft persimmon among the 7 major clans. Who? Gangaro clan. Let's do this. Angus said with a cruel smile. Letting the Cape clan live in fear is also a good choice. The news about me sacrificing my own people will soon spread. Adolf's half-human, half-bat body slowly flew up and said coldly, gather the army and set off. Before the 5 major clans unite, destroy the Gangaro clan first and let me advance to the half-step prince level. As long as the prince reaches half a step, he can conquer the world by himself. Yes. Ancestor. Angus laughed wildly and said, our Riefnor clan's ambition to dominate is tomorrow. Capet clan, underground palace secret room. Elizabeth, wearing a golden crown and a beautiful snow-white dress, outlined her graceful figure, noble and beautiful. Meet the ancestors. Elizabeth saluted respectfully, and then her beautiful face showed confusion. You came to me, do you have any orders? Behind the stone door, Fang Qingyan opened and closed his eyes, and a sharp light burst out from his eyes. He said in a calm voice, start gathering all the troops of the Cape clan. When the moon rises tomorrow, we will go to settle an old score with the Riefno clan. Elizabeth was stunned. This sudden order made her unable to react for a moment. Are our ancestors going to take the initiative to start a war with the Riefno clan? Elizabeth asked in disbelief, her voice trembling. But. No, but, go ahead. The old voice was full of determination that could not be refused. We will be the ultimate winners in this battle. P.S. Please support. Although I haven't saved the manuscript, Zayapuji is very good at it. Please support. The 8th update is here. Chapter 68. Jihad is very scary. Once it breaks out, it means that one of the tribes will be brutally killed by the other tribe. No one wants to start a holy war, but the ancestor suddenly called her over and asked her to gather troops and prepare for war. Too decisive and domineering, of course, this is too reckless. Elizabeth hesitated for a while in front of the secret room, her beautiful little face full of hesitation and entanglement. But in the end, she bowed slightly, and left, although she really wanted to say something more and advise her ancestors to think about it in the long term. For example, why did the Riefno clan destroy the Setet clan? Do they have any strong trump card? Should we wait and see for a while? Something like that, but in the end, Elizabeth chose to believe in her ancestors' decision. Exit the secret room and return to the ground. Elizabeth took a deep breath, and there was an extremely cold light in her beautiful aqua-blue eyes, and a murderous aura surged up. Father, I will be able to avenge you soon. Soon, she held an emergency meeting in the palace, where high-ranking officials from the Cape clan gathered. When they heard that their ancestors were going to conquer the Riefno clan, the expressions on everyone's faces were shocked. but after the shock, everyone showed excitement and excitement. It's long past time for a war. Have you finally waited for this day? Kill all the bastards of the Riefno clan and avenge the past. That the crowd was furious and the fighting spirit was boiling. 3 years ago in the Delano Mountains, Marquis Morpheus was crippled by Adolf. They didn't dare to cheat, so they could only run back with the seriously injured Morpheus with his tail between his legs. Then Arnold and a group of people bullied him at the door of his house and behaved wantonly. These are disgraceful. Each of them felt aggrieved. On that day, armies from dozens of cities in the Cape Clan territory gathered one after another, and then began to converge towards Bristol City. Before the moon rises tomorrow, Bristol City will have an army of 500,000 people. In the secret room of the underground palace, in an ancient coffin, blood-colored lotus flowers bloomed, with roots and leaves entangled, shining brightly and fragrantly fragrant. The blood lotus has lush branches and leaves, and a tall man lies quietly among it. Suddenly, a pair of narrow eyes opened and closed, blooming with terrifying light. It's time. Feeling the vitality and blood in his body, Fang Qingyan murmured softly, with the help of a steady stream of prince's essence and blood, and the fragrance of blood lotus, the energy and blood in his body was completely full, and he arrived at the gate of the Ten-Winged Duke. Isn't it a little too arrogant to ask Elizabeth to prepare troops before the advancement is successful? That he chuckled. Then, he turned his right hand over, and 20 drops of the prince's essence and blood lay quietly in the palm of his hand. The light of each drop of essence and blood was dazzling, crimson and alluring. Originally, only 10 drops were needed for a breakthrough, but the price for the Duke's failure to advance is death. So Fang Qingyan saved 10 more drops and kept them as a backup just in case something unexpected happened. He took a deep breath and calmed down. 3 drops of the prince's essence and blood flew out and fell directly into his mouth. Rumble. The terrifying life energy suddenly erupted, as if it was going to burst his body. Fang Qingyan controlled the energy and blood that was in a violent state. The energy and blood were close to the critical point of losing control, and he roared crazily towards the 2 acupuncture points on his back. He started to attack the 10 wings. Gongro clan, Imperial City, the war was raging, and the sound of fighting was like thunder. Asshole! Adolf! How dare you practice such evil magic? Duke Gangroro looked at the half-human, half-bat monster in front of him with splitting eyes. In order to become stronger, you dare to devour thousands of vampires and sacrifice your own kind, which is unacceptable in the world. Both humans and gods are outraged. You are not worthy of going to the god of Lilith's ancestor after your death. Country. Jiji, ridiculous. The left half of Adolf's face had a cold expression, but the right half of his bat face, covered with black fur, was grinning crazily. There are 3,000 righteous paths and 40,000 side paths. In the end, they all end up with the same goal. How can there be so-called good and evil in the world? As long as we can lead to change. The strong way is the good way. Boom. You don't have to struggle anymore, it's useless. Angus came with an aura of terror and laughed wildly. The aura on his body was not that of a marquis, but the Duke. 8 blood-red holy wings spread out behind him, covering the sky and the sun. Angus has been hiding his strength. He has actually broken through to the level of the 8-winged Duke. The Riefno clan actually has 2 dukes. No wonder they dare to have the idea of unifying the country. The reason why they were able to destroy the Satet clan overnight was because Angus led the army to sweep away the rest of the clan first, and the ancestors approached the other duke to hold them back. The 8-winged Duke is also a duke, and no amount of marquises can stop Angus. After Angus led the army to victory, he came over and joined Adolf in a 2-on-1 fight to kill the other duke. Kill. The ancestor of the Gongro clan looked as ferocious as a demon, with 2 fangs sticking out, his expression twisted, his eyes red, and he was extremely angry. Roar. Adolf's 10 holy wings shook, and he led Angus to kill him. The fighting was extremely brutal. Chapter 52. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But there is no suspense. A moment later, the ancestor of the Gongro clan was stained with blood, and his blood was swallowed by Adolf. Another 10-winged duke fell. Report to the head of the family, the blood pool has been dug. Someone came and said. Maniacal smile appeared on Angus's face. you all know what to do, you don't need me to teach you. Adolf fell from the sky and reached the bottom of the sinkhole. Soon there was blood pouring into the blood pool along the edge, groups of vampires were beheaded and bled, hundreds of thousands of troops instantly became busy workers in the slaughterhouse. Adolf was like a whale sucking water, and a huge amount of blood was swallowed up by him. Group after group of prisoners were captured, the blood was drained and the corpses were thrown away. There were troops nearby responsible for burning the corpses, royalty, nobles, commoners, untouchables. There is no difference at this moment, they are all just food for Adolf. Ah! I can't stand it anymore. Suddenly, a soldier yelled heartbreakingly, his mind was broken, this is hell. Hell. Our ancestors are demons. Laugh, the soldier's head was screwed off. Angus kicked the body into the pool of blood, and then said to the others very calmly, continue. The water level in the blood pool slowly rose and then fell. Finally, I was busy until the next day, when the moon rose, rumble. An extremely terrifying, heaven-destroying pressure suddenly filled the entire space. Under this aura, everyone's face turned pale, their two bodies trembled, and they shook like chaff. With a loud bang sound, the blood pool exploded completely, and a crimson scorching sun slowly rose, enveloping it with a terrifying aura like a god. Roar! A long roar shook the earth, and the situation changed color. When they saw the figure in the sky clearly, all the faces showed horrified expressions. The soldiers subconsciously took a few steps back. High in the air, a huge bat with a body length of more than 4 meters was suspended. Its whole body was covered with jet-black hair, with a green face and fangs, and it was ferocious. It was surrounded by dragon-like energy and blood, roaring, behind it, 11 holy wings. Compared to the previous 10-winged Duke, which had 5 wings on each side, this monster has a 6th wing on its right side, although he did not reach the level of the prince known as the 12-winged blood ancestor, but Adolf has an 11th wing. Rumble! A terrifying aura that was completely different from that of the Duke rose into the sky, everything trembled, and hundreds of millions of creatures prostrate themselves on the ground, trembling. He, Adolf, is the 11-winged half-step blood ancestor and half-step prince. Jiji. The bat monster smiled strangely, and was extremely crazy. He uttered human words, let's go Angus, I am invincible in the world. Fight 3,000 princes with one hand, push millions of princes across the board with 2 palms. Ambition to dominate, tonight. Cape Tian clan, rumble, the ground shook and the mountains shook, and the sun and moon lost their light. An invincible aura rose straight into the sky from Bristol City, terrifying and horrifying. Click, the space shattered like glass, and an old man in golden robes slowly emerged in front of the eyes of millions of people. 10 blood-red holy wings spread out behind him, covering the sky and the sun. He was strange and beautiful, peerless and invincible. I am the 10 wings, and I shall kill all enemies in the world. The old voice was like thunder, and everyone's eardrums were shocked to numbness. Although everyone is confused, why does the ancestor emphasize that he is the 10 wings? Hasn't it always been the case? But that's not important, they have already felt the domineering power of their ancestors who wanted to fight gods and Buddhas. For a time, the fighting spirit of the army boiled like fire. The whole army, attack. PS, from now on, there will be a minimum of 5 updates per day. Chapter 69. Boom, 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 the Cape Clan's army left the city of Bristol, and the sound of marching was like the heartbeat of the earth. At the front of the army, there was a huge carriage, pulling an ancient black coffin on it. Hundreds of thousands of troops set out to conquer the Riefno clan. Next to the ancient coffin, Elizabeth put on a set of gorgeous, close-fitting armor, rode on a white horse, and carried a spear. Her beautiful aqua eyes were full of majesty, and her heroic appearance was unparalleled. She suddenly remembered something. Looking back at the gate of Bristol City, a look of hesitation appeared on her beautiful face. Elizabeth, what's wrong? An old voice sounded from the coffin, low and powerful. As a general, you must be firm-willed and not distracted. Elizabeth pursed her lips, suddenly raised her beautiful eyes, took a deep breath, and said in a beautiful voice, Ancestor, I have to go back to the castle to get something. Can you wait for me for a while? What do you want to get? I want to take. Elizabeth gritted her teeth, a flash of determination flashed in her beautiful eyes, a person's heart. The ancestor suddenly fell silent, she took a deep breath. If we go to fight here, I might die on the battlefield. If I don't do some things, I might never have another chance. There was another silence for a while, only then did the old voice of the ancestors ring out from inside the coffin. Go, I'll give you a quarter of an hour, the army will be waiting for you here. Thank you, ancestor. Elizabeth's eyes were filled with tears. After receiving the permission, she no longer hesitated and rushed to the city gate with her whip raised. There is an unusually bright light in her beautiful eyes. After entering the city, we drove straight in and returned home. He ran all the way to the door of the library. She took a deep breath, adjusted her uneasy mood, put the gentlest smile on her lips, then stretched out her two small hands and gently grasped the door handles on both sides. Crunch, the moment the door opens, eyes facing each other, in front of him, a slender figure stood upright. He was as handsome as ever, the smile on his face was as contagious as ever, and his black eyes were deep and calm. Fang Qingyan looked at her, waiting for her to speak. Elizabeth's face turned red. She had obviously thought of a lot of confessions and farewells on the way, but now she couldn't utter a single word. Master, are you here? Call me Elizabeth. She glared, then pursed her red lips, apologetically. Are you angry? I haven't come to see you for a long time. After becoming the head of the family, I am very busy every day. I apologize to you. I'm not angry, that's okay. Fang Qingyan asked with a smile. Elizabeth, you came to see me, is there anything wrong? I want to give you something. Elizabeth hesitated for a moment, her pretty face flushed slightly. She raised her little hand to take off the necklace from her white neck, and her beautiful onion-like fingers touched the bronze key that was still warm. Finally, her eyes became determined and she stared into Fang Qingyan's eyes. Didn't you want it before? I'll give it to you now. She handed the key to Fang Qingyan. You could hear that her breathing was erratic, and there was a hint of shame in her eyes. Elizabeth once swore that this key would be given to the man she fell in love with. Her behavior of handing over the key was, in fact, a show of love from the other party. Qingyan. Fang Qingyan squinted his eyes, raised the corners of his mouth, reached out to take the key, and then asked her, what does it mean to give me the key? Have. Elizabeth nodded seriously. I'll tell you when I get back. Fang Qingyan said and nodded. Then, he took out a necklace with a ruby pendant from his arms. It was shining, bright and charming. You gave me your necklace, so what do you wear? He smiled and handed the red necklace to her. How can a girl as beautiful as you not wear a necklace? I'll give you this. Elizabeth's eyes showed a look of surprise, and she took it with trembling little hands, holding it in her hands as if it were the most precious thing. It's so beautiful. What's its name? Blood Oath to Protect. Fang Qingyan replied with a faint smile. She didn't know that it was an 8-star magic weapon, but as long as it was something Fang Qingyan gave her, even if it was a pebble, she wouldn't be able to put it down. Elizabeth wanted to say something else, but she looked at the time and saw that almost a quarter of an hour had passed. Her beautiful eyes looked at Fang Qingyan with reluctance, and she pursed her lips. Wait until I come back. Then, he turned around and rushed out the door. Fang Qingyan lowered his head and looked at this inconspicuous necklace. This is the key to the prince's mausoleum. In the beginning, this was the purpose of his coming to the Cape clan, but now, unconsciously, there are some more bonds in my life. Bang! He raised his hand and snapped his fingers. Chapter 53. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The space trembled like ripples, and he teleported back to the outside of the city, in front of the army formation, and in the coffin, the sound of horse hooves sounded. Elizabeth arrived and shouted loudly, the whole army, move out. A satisfied smile appeared on her lips. Edward, if I can come back alive, let's be together and never be separated again. If I can't come back, you won't know that I actually love you, and you won't be too sad. You can still fall in love with other, excellent girls. On the side, in the coffin, Fang Qingyan gently put the bronze key around his neck. Ah! A shrill scream sounded. Duke Brooke was torn into pieces by a huge bat monster. Just as he was about to use the power of qi and blood to reshape his body, he saw a bloody mouth opening, and the terrifying suction force swallowed up all the vast chi and blood of Duke Brooke. Adolf! The screams disappeared, the bat monster burped and then laughed crazily. It's delicious. Is this the power of Prince Half-Step? Killing a duke is like killing a chicken. Ha ha ha, on the earth, the city of Lahmia has become a ruin, a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, and all life is in ruins. Another royal clan was wiped out by them. Adolf, the half-step prince, simply killed the god when he stood in the way, and killed the Buddha when he stood in the way of the Buddha. He pushed him all the way, and there was no one who could match him. The entire vampire clan, except for the Riefno clan, the other 6 major clans, Setet, Bra, Gongro, Jordani, Cape, and Toledo, 4 clans have been wiped out. Only the Capet clan and the Toledo clan are left. Gigi. Adolf laughed bloodthirstily. Kill, kill, kill. Kill them all. The ancestors are already invincible in the world. Angus flattered him just right and said with a grin, let's go and destroy the Cape clan first. That old guy William still has my blood lotus in his hand. Just then, the ground suddenly trembled. Boom, boom, boom. It was like thousands of troops rushing towards the enemy. Without a sound, the gravel on the ground would jump. Report to the head of the family. A marquis flew over, knelt down on one knee, and said loudly. A large number of soldiers and horses appeared in front, and the Capetian clan led an army of 600,000 to attack. When Angus heard this, he burst out laughing wildly. You are so diligent even in death, ancestor, let's go. Gigi. The bat monster gave a creepy weird laugh. With a crack of thunder, it turned into a bolt of thunder and soared into the sky. The bright moon hangs high, and the silver-white moonlight covers the vast land. As far as the eye can see, there are dense crowds of people and war horses on the horizon. The shouts and shouts of killing can be clearly heard dozens of miles away. The flags they hold high are printed with the emblem of the Cape clan. Gigi William, you are asking for your own death. Adolf, the half-step prince, laughed wildly and rushed out alone, regardless of whether the army of the Riefno clan could keep up with him. I alone can destroy your clan. Behind the giant bat, the 11 holy wings shook violently. In an instant, billions of barrel-thick thunders fell from the sky, crackling, and poured down like sea water towards the hundreds of thousands of troops of the Cape clan, wreaking havoc and violence. Everyone in the army suddenly changed their colors. What kind of terrifying strength is this? Will this ugly bat monster destroy the world with just one strike? Humph. Is it just you? Prince Bamboo. So what? Suddenly, in front of the army formation, a cold snort sounded from the ancient black coffin. Click. Above the army's head, the space of dozens of miles in radius was twisted and folded like a twist. Billions of thunderbolts fell, but the moment they touched this twisted space, they all disappeared. Rumble, rumble, rumble. 100 miles away behind Adolf, the army of the Riefno clan was forming. Billions of thunderbolts fell like a violent storm, carrying the power of violent thunder that destroyed everything, and swept across in an instant. Countless people screamed and were annihilated by the thunder released by their ancestors. Half of the hundreds of thousands of people were wiped out. Aw! Bastard! Zhao Li's, Daofu's eyes instantly turned red and he let out an angry roar. William actually used his space ability to transfer the thunderous thunder to the head of their army of the Riefno clan, and suffered the consequences. The Cape clan army roared loudly, excitedly, and excitedly. The fighting spirit instantly soared 10 levels. The ancestors are mighty and domineering. The ancestor is awesome. All troops, charge with me. Elizabeth's beautiful eyes bloomed with brilliance, her beautiful face looked resolute, and she held a spear in hand and led the army to charge. Adolf looked at Elizabeth with a ferocious and cruel expression. He was planning to kill his leader and undermine the morale of the Cape clan. Boom! There was a loud noise and the coffin lid flew up. Fang Qingyan slowly rose into the air and looked at Adolf and Angus with cold and indifferent eyes. His voice was old and domineering. The old will fight the old, the young will fight the young. Let's not interfere in the battle below. Come up and fight. After that, he flew high into the sky and appeared at an altitude of 1,000,000 meters in the blink of an eye. Unbridled knowledge. Adolf and Angus roared and chased after him, intending to use extreme force to kill Fang Qingyan. How dare a mere 10-winger dare to be so arrogant in front of Prince Bamboo? Where did he get his confidence? P.S. Please support me, Chapter 70. Old guy, where are you running? The bat monster, which exuded the aura of the terrifying half-step prince, roared violently like an evil ghost. The 11 holy wings behind him suddenly shook, turned into thunder, and flew to an altitude of 1,000,000 meters. However, Fang Qingyan did not run away. His slender figure stood proudly in the air, with his hands behind his back. His body in a gorgeous golden robe was as straight as a javelin, and his old face was covered with wrinkles. Under his white eyebrows, there was a pair of sharp eyes like an eagle. Eyes. Jia Jia. Adolf stuck out his tongue and licked his black-haired lips with bloodthirsty and cruelty. 2 bat eyes the size of copper bells glowed with a strange crimson color. After seeing Fang Qingyan stop, he also stopped and said with a ferocious smile, "Why don't you run away? You are just a 10-winged duke, but you really plan to fight with me, the half-step prince?" Fang Qingyan shook his head, his eyes were indifferent, and his voice was calm. "I have never heard of any half-step prince. There are only princes above the 10 wings. The vampire family claims to be noble, gentleman, and elegant, but look at the ugly monster like you. Look behind you, 5 to the left and 6 to the right, these asymmetrical holy wings." His tone was firm. "You have taken a detour and you don't know it? You think you are invincible. I can only say that you are short-sighted and have a narrow vision." "Shut up!" Adolf shouted angrily, with a ferocious look on the bat's face. "I have 11 holy wings, 11, do you understand? What about you? You are all 10-winged ants. I am no longer on the same level as you. Why? Don't you understand?" The bat monster let out a roar that shook the Tsungs apart. "Being the prince, I am the most respected one." The sound was like thunder. Fang Qingyan glanced at him with pity, shook his head, and stopped talking nonsense to this old guy who was lost in power. "Ancestor." Angus finally caught up. "He only has 8 wings and cannot keep up with Fang Qingyan and Adolf." "Hee old guy, how are you keeping my blood lotus?" Angus flew to Adolf's side and looked at Fang Qingyan with a ferocious smile. "Do you really think that we gave you the blood lotus as an apology and reconciliation? It's just to stabilize you temporarily. Now, it's time to return my things. Speaking of which, I have to thank you for the blood lotus." Fang Qingyan had a joking smile on his lips. "When I kill you later, I'll try my best not to cause you too much pain to express my gratitude." "Humph. How dare you speak harshly when you are about to die?" The bat monster Adolf sneered, and while speaking, he turned to look at Angus beside him. "Angus, go and guard from a distance to prevent him from using his space ability to escape." "Angus? Where are you?" The person was still next to him just now, but he disappeared in the blink of an eye. Old ancestor, save me." Angus's frightened roar and cry for help came from behind. Adolf turned around suddenly, his bat eyes suddenly widened to their maximum size, and he looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. The old man in gold robe stood expressionless in the void, his left hand leisurely behind his back, his right hand stretched out horizontally, squeezing Angus' neck. An extremely terrifying power of blood and space imprisoned Angus. He felt that he was not in the air, but in a huge jelly, unable to move at all. They still have misunderstandings about space capabilities. Angus thought he would be fine if he stayed with his ancestors. However, Fang Qingyan directly folded the space, teleported him over, and caught him in the palm of his hand. Even before Adolf could react, Angus was captured. Angus let out a furious roar and struggled wildly, but to no avail. He could only look at his ancestors with begging eyes. "Asshole! Let Angus go!" Adolf let out a violent roar, and the energy and blood around the bat's body roared like a wild dragon. The 11 holy wings behind him shook with a bang and rushed towards Fang Qingyan like a god of death. "Oh!" Fang Qingyan sneered, his eyes filled with light. Chapter 54. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Instantly, the space between him and Adolf suddenly twisted and folded with the space behind Adolf. Adolf looked at Fang Qingyan and Angus in the distance with a confused look on his face. The distance between the two sides was more than 100 miles, and he was so angry that he screamed. "Ah! Old ancestor, why are you running farther and farther? Save me!" Angus was still yelling loudly. Just now, the old ancestor rushed to the front, but was suddenly teleported more than 100 miles away. The space superpower of the old man William was really, rogue. Fang Qingyan looked at Adolf with a playful look, and was not in a hurry to kill Angus. The corners of his mouth hung with a playful evil smile. "Adolf, come here. If you don't come, I will kill Angus." He even started to mock. There was no other way. When Fang Qingyan thought of his previous life of forbearance that he was forced to live, he couldn't help but have some strange thoughts. He felt that if he didn't play a trick on them, then his debt collection would not be satisfying enough. "Damn old man, I'm going to tear you into pieces." The bat monster's eyes showed unprecedented rage and murderous intent, and he rushed forward with a roar. His half-step prince's blood and energy rolled like a tide, his breath was terrifying and horrifying, and his speed was as fast as thunder. In an instant, he rushed to Fang Qingyan's eyes. Swish! A claw swung down. With extremely terrifying power, it can easily tear apart the body of any duke. Fang Qingyan was calm and composed, with a calm expression, when Adolf's claw reached 1 centimeter above his forehead. Buzz! The space twisted and folded again. Adolf chopped the air with one claw. The bat monster was so angry that it vomited blood, howled strangely, and had lost its mind due to anger. This time Adolf was not teleported to the back, but Fang Qingyan grabbed Angus and jumped 100 miles away. It was obviously just this short distance, but it felt like he could never reach it. "Damn it, damn it, damn it. Old William, you dare to play tricks on me." Adolf looked up to the sky and howled, beating his chest and stamping his feet. Seeing this, Fang Qingyan couldn't help but curl his lips and lost the intention to continue playing. With a boom sound from his right hand, the terrifying blood and chi power instantly shook Angus into a ball of blood mist, like a blood-colored firework blooming in the sky. After Angus's body was destroyed, the blood and chi power surged wildly, trying to reshape his body. However, Fang Qingyan reached out his hand with an indifferent look, and a vast and boundless blood rushed down, easily devouring all his blood and energy, turning it into nothingness. The head of the Ravno clan, Duke Angus. Suddenly, Angus! A thunderous roar sounded, and 2 lines of blood and tears flowed from Adolf's 2 bad eyes, and his fangs were exposed outside his lips. His expression was distorted and crazy. The blood power around the bat's body instantly fell into a state of rampage. For a moment, the extremely terrifying pressure swept in all directions. A terrifying aura that far exceeded the Duke of 10 Wings by thousands of times suddenly rose into the sky. 2 eyes full of resentment, madness, violence, and cruelty locked Fang Qingyan. "William, I want you to die." The voice also changed completely. It became like a devil's roar, and Adolf was like a demon from hell. Fang Qingyan narrowed his eyes, his expression was more cautious, and his eyes were no longer casual, but sharp. This old guy has become much stronger. Is it the ability to go berserk and run wild for a short time after becoming a monster? Roar. The extremely terrifying bat monster, like a demon god, roared. The 11 holy wings shook violently, and then disappeared from the spot and swept hundreds of miles in an instant. Rumble. It was wrapped in the terrifying blood and chi power of destroying the world, and came towards Fang Qingyan to kill. Wherever it passed, fine black cracks appeared in the space along the way. Fang Qingyan's eyes looked more serious. He stretched out one hand, and the space in front of him twisted and folded and folded hundreds of times in a blink of an eye. Judging from Adolf's previous performance, even if he ran for 10,000 years, he would not be able to get in front of Fang Qingyan. However, immediately afterwards, Fang Qingyan's pupils shrank slightly. Roar. Crack! Adolf roared, and his claws chopped down like a giant axe, and the space was shattered like a mirror, turning into pieces and disappearing. Boom boom boom. It moved forward without hesitation, breaking through hundreds of space barriers, and descended with thunder. This bat monster, after going berserk and running wild, its body was so strong that it could tear the space to a certain extent. Humph! Fang Qingyan saw the crazy monster approaching, and his eyes turned cold. He was also ready to use some powerful means. Do you have a trump card? P.S. The third update. Every update is a chapter of more than 3,000 words. Please give me flowers, monthly tickets, and evaluation tickets. I will continue to write. Chapter 71. Kill. On the ground, thousands of troops rushed to fight. Elizabeth led an army of 600,000 and had been fighting with the Ravno clan for a while. In the current battle situation, the Cape clan has a slight upper hand. However, they also fell into a stalemate, and the Riefno clan counterattacked fiercely. Although they had been killed numerous times by their ancestors' lightning before the battle began, their fighting spirit was still very high. Because the people of the Riefno clan have all witnessed with their own eyes the power, terror, and invincibility of Ancestor Adolf. Within 2 days, the 4 major royal clans were wiped out, making everyone in the Riefno clan feel excited. They all firmly believed that as long as they held on for a while, Ancestor Adolf and the head of the Angus family could kill the Duke of the Cape clan and then come back to sweep the army and win. Kill! Everyone let out a fighting roar. Elizabeth was surrounded by 2 marquises, Charlie and Harry, who were looking after the safety of the family owner while fighting hard. The battlefield was littered with corpses, the stumps and broken arms were floating on the river of blood. The strong smell of blood mixed with the killing atmosphere of the battlefield and rushed into the sky like wolf smoke. Roar. Suddenly, a terrifying roaring sound like the roar of a demon exploded, and the sound waves came from a distant high altitude, like rolling thunder. Everyone can feel the violence and power in this voice. The head of the family is that old monster Adolf. Beside him, Charlie's expression changed slightly, and he said to Elizabeth, "It's such a powerful aura. Even from such a long distance, you can feel the terror in it. Will my ancestor be okay? Can he beat that old monster Adolf?" The 4th-winged Marquis Harry also had worries on his face. His eyes were full of worry, and he said uneasily, "Adolf's strength is too terrifying. All the ancestors of the dukes of the 4 major clans died at his hands. I'm afraid our ancestors." When Elizabeth heard this, her beautiful eyes suddenly became fierce and stern, and she yelled angrily, "Shut up. Don't mess with the morale of our army. Our ancestors will be fine. We will win this battle." She pointed her spear at the sky, and her sweet voice sounded on the battlefield. Cape must win. For a time, the soldiers were all boosted by the Queen's morale. They roared angrily and started fighting with the people of the Riefno clan. In fact, Elizabeth didn't know whether her ancestor could win. But she knew that if she was shaken, the people below would be shaken even more. Morale must not be lost. 1,000,000 meters above the sky, Fang Qingyan's eyes were cold. In front of him, the space was shattered layer by layer. The huge and ugly bat monster was tearing apart the space like it was fighting against thorns and thorns, and it was approaching quickly. "Jiji, you will die miserably." An inhuman voice came from the bat monster's throat, and it stared at Fang Qingyan ferociously. "No, it was you who died miserably." Fang Qingyan said lightly. His tiger body trembled. "Tsk tsk 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 tisk tisk dash." Behind him, 10 blood-red holy wings suddenly unfolded, and red light lingered on them, shining brightly, strange and beautiful. Each holy wing was more than 20 meters long, covering the sky and the sun. When Adolf saw this, he quickly tore open the space and approached, while sneering disdainfully. "How dare you show off your shame with just 10 wings? You will definitely die." It has killed 4 10-winged dukes in the past 2 days. Naturally, it doesn't take Fang Qingyan seriously. In its view, the only thing he can use is this rogue space superpower. Just 10 wings. "Is that what you think?" Fang Qingyan sneered. His eyes were stern, and his voice was domineering and loud. "Then open your eyes and see clearly." Buzz. Suddenly, a terrifying force of energy and blood burst out from Fang Qingyan's body. A little golden light bloomed, and then thousands of brilliance poured out. The most yin and soft power of qi and blood is instantly transformed into the most yang and strength. Rumble. Qi and blood surged. and an extremely scorching heat wave erupted from his body, sweeping in all directions, and the heat wave hit Adolf's face. Chapter 55. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Its bat eyes as big as copper bells stared straight ahead, and a look of horror appeared on its black furry face. The red gold light on Fang Qingyan's body became brighter and brighter, and finally the whole person turned into light, which made people unable to open their eyes. Buzz, wait for the light to dissipate. A figure with violent yang power surging all over his body appeared, standing proudly in the air. Behind him, the 10 blood-red holy wings had turned into a dazzling red gold color. On each holy wing, there was a blazing sun fire, invincible, powerful, domineering, like a peerless war god. Do you still look down on the 10 wings now? A faint voice sounded. Fang Qingyan's eyes locked calmly on Adolf, and the red gold blood power around him surged, wrapped in the blazing sun fire. You, how did you do it? Adolf roared in horror, totally unable to believe what he saw. He screamed hysterically, you are a vampire. A vampire. How could a vampire be favored by the sun? Since the birth of the vampires, there has been no vampire who does not hate and fear the sun. But now, what did Adolf see? A 10-winged duke wearing the sun's fire. Behind Fang Qingyan, 10 holy wings gently moved. The red gold light was dazzling, like a god. Come on, let me experience the power of the 11-winged half-step prince. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Buzz, the space twisted. Fang Qingyan teleported behind Adolf, and blasted out with a golden fist wrapped in the power of the sun. Boom. Adolf turned around to resist, and the vast blood roared to block the punch. Chi, chi, chi. However, as soon as his extremely yin chi and blood power touched the golden flame on Fang Qingyan's fist, it was like it had hit its nemesis, and it instantly disintegrated like ice and snow melting. The remaining force of his fist did not decrease, and it hit the bat monster's chest covered with black hair, all the way in. Puff. Fang Qingyan's fist pierced through his chest, and the extremely young power on his arm wrapped in golden flames gushed out wildly, wreaking havoc and corroding around Adolf's wound. Ah! Adolf screamed miserably. He turned into thunder and retreated dozens of miles. He looked at Fang Qingyan with a horrified expression. There was a big hole in his chest that was transparent from front to back, which was shocking, but he had no way to heal himself, because the solar essence fire remaining in the wound was still swallowing up his chi and blood. Asshole! Adolf's eyes showed fear, and he roared, kill. If he fought a war of attrition, he would definitely die. He wanted to kill Fang Qingyan with the force of thunder. Humph! Fang Qingyan snorted coldly, carrying thousands of golden lights, and went forward without dodging. Boom boom boom. One man and one bat started the most intense fight. Every punch and kick shocked the world and made the gods and ghosts cry. The mountains shook and the earth trembled. On the ground, the armies of both sides were still fighting fiercely. Suddenly, a shrill scream came from the sky, vicious and resentful, painful and violent. It seemed to be tortured unimaginably. Please give flowers. 0. It's the ancestor. The soldiers of the Capet family showed ecstatic expressions on their faces. The ancestor severely damaged the monster. Ha ha ha. The ancestor is mighty and domineering. I really want to go up and see the world-class scene of the ancestor killing people everywhere. Kill. Kill all those bastards of the Revno clan. In an instant, the morale of the Capet clan army was unprecedentedly high. On the other hand, after hearing Adolf's screams, everyone in the Revno clan was panicked and their morale was low. Elizabeth's pretty face was filled with iron and blood. She looked at the enemy with sharp eyes, pointed her spear, and shouted loudly, soon the ancestor will be able to kill Adolf. Let's make a concerted effort to take down the Revno clan in one fell swoop. People, follow me. Kill. For a moment, the army was full of momentum and had reached the decisive moment. Everyone let out a passionate roar and their eyes were red with killing. The army rushed directly into the Revno army. The balance of victory has already tilted towards the Capet clan. 1,000,000 meters high, Fang Qingyan held a huge bloody wing in his right hand and looked at Adolf in front of him with a calm expression. 0. Adolf looked extremely miserable. One of his holy wings was torn off, and his strength had fallen to the level of a 10-winged duke. His body was covered with wounds, and there were 7 or 8 holes as big as bowls that were transparent from front to back. In each hole, there was a red-gold solar fire raging, and the power of the extreme yang destroyed Adolf's blood. "It's over, Adolf," Fang Qingyan said lightly, throwing away the wings in his hand. "Damn it, is this your most powerful trump card?" Adolf looked at Fang Qingyan with resentment, and his voice was full of unwillingness. "For the Blood Clan, the Holy Wings can achieve a countless increase in strength, but it is also the biggest weakness. In the civil war between the two Blood Clans, the Holy Wings were torn off, which means that he has lost." Fang Qingyan was stunned when he heard him ask this, and then shook his head and smiled. "No, this is really not my biggest trump card. Just a few hours ago, I just got a stronger superpower. Do you want to see it? Come on. Come on horseback." Adolf roared and made a final desperate counterattack. Fang Qingyan looked at him indifferently and stretched out one hand. "Smash Farudo." "Buzz, follow your words." Suddenly, the whole world fell silent, the wind stopped, the clouds stopped moving, the consciousness stopped thinking, all dynamic things became absolutely still. Even time has solidified and frozen. This is what Fang Qingyan obtained when he broke through the 10-winged duke, a new superpower. Time stops. For convenience, he named it after a noun from a certain anime he had watched in his previous life. It's a pity that the duration is too short. It can only stop for 3 seconds, and it is far from developing Fang Qingyan's spatial ability. Boom 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 boom. Ola, 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 ola. Fang Qingyan roared angrily and punched out tens of thousands of punches in 3 seconds. The fist wrapped in golden flames directly blasted the bat monster into ashes. The ancestor of the Riefno clan, Adolf, suddenly. P.S. If the number of words in a single chapter exceeds 3,000, it is easy to get stuck. If you encounter this situation, wait a few minutes or refresh it. Xiaopuji asks for support. Force, Chapter 72. The 3-second time stop ends. Things that have been stopped return to normal. The wind continued to blow, the clouds continued to float, the stars continued to blink. On the battlefield, the Cape Tian army continued to chase the enemy. No one knew that 3 seconds of their time had been stolen by Fang Qingyan. Fang Qingyan took a long breath and retracted the 10 dazzling golden holy wings behind him. A gust of wind blew, Adolf's ashes were swept away, leaving nothing behind. After killing people, scatter the ashes. Fang Qingyan felt relaxed, calmly used his mental power to sweep down and check the situation on the battlefield. The army of the Riefno clan has been completely defeated. A group of remnant defeated generals ran for their lives like wolves and hogs. Those who ran slowly were overtaken and killed by the Capet clan. Some surrendered and became prisoners. Elizabeth is holding a spear, her graceful body is wrapped in blood-stained armor, her beautiful aqua-blue eyes are filled with evil aura, and her delicate and beautiful little face already has a sense of iron and blood that was not seen before. This kind of Elizabeth no longer has the innocence and simplicity she had when she was a princess, but she has more momentum and heroism as a queen. Fang Qingyan stood in the air with his hands behind his back, looking at her with complex eyes as she jumped on her horse to grab the loot and led her clansmen to fight the enemy bravely. Although she is only a viscount, she already has 7 points of the courage of Marquis Morpheus. Buzz. The space was distorted, he had returned to the old black coffin. At the same time, an old and domineering voice sounded and spread throughout the battlefield. Angus is dead, Adolf has fallen. Boom. Chapter 56. You are listening at novelfull.audio. For a moment, everyone was shocked. After the shock, hundreds of thousands of people in the Cape clan cheered, shouted, and screamed wildly. The ancestors are mighty. A half-step prince? Bah! Little trash. Long live our ancestors. It's really a shame, our ancestors of the Cape clan are too strong. The ancestors are domineering. That the people of the Cape clan were extremely excited. They did not expect that their ancestors would kill a half-step prince and an 8-winged duke so quickly. In fact, it was not that Adolf was too weak, nor was it that the Duke of 10 Wings was too strong. After this guy Adolf completely turned into a bat, he became really powerful. Fang Qingyan could easily kill Angus with his normal strength, but in order to kill the old monster Adolf, he first spread out his 10 wings, then transformed into Yang form, used the power of the sun, and finally used developed superpowers of space and time. After turning on the 10-wing mode, the strength can be enhanced 1,000 times compared to the normal state. Adolf has an extra wing, and the growth rate will definitely be higher. Except for Fang Qingyan, there is really no 10-winged duke in this world who can do it better than him. For a moment, the remaining defeated generals of the Riefno clan were completely desperate. Everyone threw away their weapons in dejection as if they were mourning for their heirs, knelt on the ground, lowered their heads, and raised their hands in surrender. The war is officially over. The Castain clan was the final winner. A bright smile broke out on Elizabeth's beautiful face, and tears of joy burst out. "Father, my daughter has avenged you. You must have seen it in the sky, right?" The soldiers of the Cape clan began to clear the battlefield and seize the loot, the territories, assets, and populations of the 5 royal clans. All now belonged to the Cape clan. Fang Qingyan meditated quietly in the coffin. Wait patiently for Elizabeth to finish, but at this time, on the distant road, a large number of soldiers and horses appeared. It was a very large army, spreading towards the battlefield like sea water. At the forefront of the army was an ancient coffin. Among the hundreds of thousands of troops, flags were flying high, with the unique emblem of the royal clan printed on them. This sudden change immediately alarmed everyone. Elizabeth looked far away, then her pupils shrank violently, and she said solemnly, "They are from the Toledo clan." Beside him, Charlie frowned and snorted. "What do they want to do? What else can we do?" Elizabeth said lightly, "It's just to watch us finish the fight and want to come over and share the fruits of victory." For a time, the crowd was furious. Is this Toledo clan crazy? Damn it, haven't they watched the show for a long time? Sitting on the mountain and watching the tiger fight? We work hard and they will share the benefits. Master, don't hesitate, let's kill them too. A look of hesitation appeared on Elizabeth's pretty face. The Cape clan had just experienced a great war, in which nearly 150,000 of the 600,000 strong army were killed. Moreover, although the ancestors destroyed Adolf, they must have consumed a lot of energy and their condition was not very good. Fighting against the Toledo clan at this time would be very risky. No need to say anything else, the whole army forms an array. Perseverance appeared in Elizabeth's beautiful eyes, and she gave the order in a cold voice, "Let's see what they say first. Small gains can be made, but if they dare to speak loudly, then let's fight." She glanced around at the members of the Cape clan and asked loudly, "Soldiers, do you still have the strength to fight?" "Have." The sound was like thunder and the momentum was like a rainbow. The army of the Toledo clan stopped 50 miles outside Lahmia. Elizabeth stood proudly on the top of the city wall with her head held high and her eyes coldly looking at the Toledo clan army. I saw a 6-winged Marquis coming out of the army, the head of the Toledo family. Marquis Toledo broke away from the army and rode forward on his war horse, assuming the arrogant posture of a royal noble. "He who comes is stopped." Elizabeth's eyes were cold, and her voice was pleasant but also extremely majestic. "Marquis Toledo, what do you mean?" The Marquis of Toledo stopped, with an indifferent expression and a loud voice. "Elizabeth I, thanks for your hard work of your Castain clan, you got rid of Riefno and stopped the evil man Adolf. Don't beat around the bush." Elizabeth's beautiful eyes were frosty. "You came with troops, do you want to start a war?" "Of course not." Marquis Toledo said calmly, "We are the only 2 of the 7 royal clans left. Their 5 clans have become history. From now on, the world will be divided into 2 parts. The kingdom of Nicola will be divided into half for you and me. What do you think?" "How?" When Elizabeth heard this, her eyes suddenly widened. Immediately, anger and murderous intent rose up on the pretty face. If the Toledo clan just wanted a piece of the pie, she wouldn't be too upset, but the other party wants to take away the blame. Push your limits. You have been through a big battle, and you must have suffered serious damage, right? Before Elizabeth could reply, Marquis Toledo continued with a sneer, "Adolf is a powerful half-step prince with 11 wings. Duke William can defeat the strong with the weak. We all admire him, but we just don't know that after the tragic victory, William, how many levels of combat power does the Duke have left? Boom! Suddenly, the coffin lid flew open, the Duke's ancestor of the Torito clan flew up directly and said coldly. Humph. That guy William is hiding in the coffin and can't come out. He must be severely exhausted, lack of energy and blood, and is recuperating. Stop talking nonsense to them. That little girl above, don't understand the current affairs. I'll ask you this, the world is divided into two parts. Do you obey or not? Elizabeth's face turned extremely ugly, the pressure from the other party's 10-winged Duke made her feel suffocated, but the next moment, all the pressure disappeared. On the Cape clan side, the old voice of the ancestors rang out from the ancient coffin. Old guy, kneel down and apologize, slap yourself twice, and then take your Toledo clan back. It's still too late before I have murderous intentions for you. P.S. Please support. Ask for flowers, monthly tickets, evaluation votes, and support Xiapuji. Chapter 73. The old and deep voice echoed throughout the battlefield for a long time. For a moment, everyone was stunned. The people of the Cape clan and the Toledo clan had different reactions. On Elizabeth's side, when everyone heard the ancestors' words, their blood suddenly started to burn, and hundreds of thousands of people's eyes bloomed brightly. Get out of here before I have any murderous intentions. Kneel down, apologize, and then slap yourself twice. Listen. Listen to this. The ancestors are so domineering. Elizabeth's beautiful eyes shone with brilliance, and her pretty face turned red with excitement. She originally thought that her ancestor would make some temporary concessions when facing the aggressive Marquis Toledo despite his poor condition, but I never expected that my ancestor's attitude would be so tough, so domineering, so, just reckless. The morale of the Cape clan has soared to the extreme. On the other hand, everyone in the Toledo clan was angered. Why are you so stubborn? He had just gone through a tragic battle and had gone into hiding in a coffin to recuperate. How dare he be so domineering? Why? This old guy is too arrogant. The head of the Toledo clan stared angrily and said in a gloomy voice, you don't take us seriously at all, and you actually want your ancestor to kneel down and apologize to him. Ha 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 ha. Duke Toledo laughed wildly, stared at Fang Qingyan's coffin with a look that said I have seen everything, and sneered, William, don't think I don't know what you are thinking. It's just a bluff, pretend to be injured. Not heavy, but still strong. Do you think I will be timid if you say a few cruel words? Prince Adolf is a mighty 11-winged half-step prince. Even if you beat him, it will only be a miserable victory. You are not injured. I won't believe it. His voice was full of confidence and certainty. For a time, hundreds of thousands of people in the Toledo clan had expressions of realization on their faces. I see, our ancestors are wise. Duke William was injured, so he bluffed and wanted to scare their ancestors. For a moment, many people burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. Do you think we are scared? If you are really not afraid, why hide in a coffin and dare not come out to see people? Tianxia has already given you face. If we really want to fight, you will lose badly. That's right. Don't be shameless. The 5 major clans have been wiped out, and we are the only 2 clans left. If you, the Cape clan, monopolize 6/7 of Nikala's land, where will that leave us? As soon as the Cape clan heard this, they suddenly became worried again. The ancestor is not really bluffing, is he? Chapter 57. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That's right, Adolf is a terrifying existence of half-step prince. The ancestor killed a half-step prince alone, how could it be left intact? The ancestors must have paid a heavy price. For a moment, everyone's expressions changed, but at this moment, an old and powerful voice sounded from inside the coffin. Oh, since you're stubborn, come over here. I can kill you without leaving the coffin, do you believe it? Everyone was stunned again. What? Lying in a coffin without moving, he threatened to kill a powerful enemy of the same realm and level? No one can boast about it. At this moment, even the expressions on the faces of the people of the Cape clan became wonderful. Hundreds of thousands of people were twitching at the corners of their mouths. Ancestor, you've gone too far, that's pretty much it. Even we don't believe it, Elizabeth also sighed. She wanted to say to her ancestor, "Forget it, ancestor, if you can't get through it, don't force it anymore. Everyone knows that you are in a bad state." Ha 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 ha. "William, do you think I'm scared?" Duke Toledo laughed arrogantly. "Kill me without leaving the coffin? Are you going to kill me with your mouth?" "As you wish, I'm here, you kill one of them and show me." Rumble. He shot through the air towards Fang Qingyan's coffin with great confidence, carrying a terrifying aura. The faces of the people in the Cape clan changed, they took out their magic weapons and prepared to fight. Buzz. Suddenly, the space around Toledo's body was distorted, then the Duke's ancestor disappeared completely, it just disappeared out of thin air. "Where are the old ancestors?" The leader of the Toledo clan was confused. "Is it so fast that even I can't see clearly?" For a time, millions of eyes in the audience were looking for Duke Toledo. One thing was finally confirmed: Duke Toledo was missing, just when everyone's faces were filled with question marks. Bang! There was a loud bang. The lid of William's ancestor's coffin suddenly flew up. At the same time, a black shadow flew out of the coffin. Everyone in the Cape clan sighed inwardly. The ancestor was really bragging just now, isn't it? Isn't it coming out of the coffin now? Ah! Suddenly, a scream of extreme horror rang out from the Toledo clan. "It's not Duke William who's coming out. It's... Everyone's attention was instantly attracted. They all looked at the black figure that just flew out of the coffin. Bang! The black shadow fell to the ground like a broken sack, motionless. Only then did everyone see clearly that it was a mummy. A desiccated corpse that had been completely drained of every drop of blood in its body. The key is that the mummy is wearing the clothes of Duke Toledo. Ah, ancestor! The heartrending sound sounded, and the owner of the Tory family fell to his knees on the ground, his face full of grief and despair, and he burst into tears. How could this happen? What happened? The ancestor was killed. Why is this happening? The battle didn't happen at all, why did it end? Well, the ancestor was killed. The Toledo clan suddenly burst into tears. Compared to the commotion and despair over there, it was like mourning. The Cape clan, for 30 seconds, there was dead silence. Everyone was dumbfounded, then there was a huge uproar. Is this what our ancestors did? Oh my God! Am I blind? The lid of the coffin was only opened once, so the question is, when did Duke Toledo enter? I understand. There is only one truth. When Duke Toledo disappeared, he actually appeared in the coffin. The ancestor's strength is so terrifying, that everyone was talking a lot, and everyone was so excited that they wanted to dance. At this time, an old voice sounded from inside the coffin. Why are you still standing there? Waiting for them to run away? Everyone suddenly came to their senses. Their ancestors were killed by our ancestors, so what else is there to be afraid of? Elizabeth's little face was rosy with excitement. She pointed her gun at the sky and her voice was clear and majestic. Attack the entire army. Destroy the Toledo clan. Kill with me. Kill Thousands of troops and horses galloped wildly. Everyone's fighting spirit was boiling to the extreme. On the Toledo clan's side, hundreds of thousands of troops turned around and ran away without even thinking, discarding their armor along the way. They didn't dare to resist at all, because as long as they dared to fight back, the ancestor William of the Cape clan would definitely take action again. There are only 3 ways waiting for them: escape, capture, or death. The army has left. The coffin remained in place, inside the old black coffin. Really, can you help me put the lid on the coffin before I leave? Fang Qingyan shook his head helplessly, stretched out his hand to wipe the blood on his lips, and murmured, "Why does everyone think I am bluffing? Don't understand, I told you clearly, don't mess with me, get out of here, it must be delivered." No one knew how Fang Qingyan killed Duke Toledo, because even Duke Toledo didn't know how he was killed. The reason is actually very simple. The moment he moved, Fang Qingyan used his spatial ability to grab Duke Toledo into the coffin, and at the same time used Smash Farudo to pause time. During the 3-second time stop, Fang Qingyan sucked all the blood and chi from Duke Toledo's body. He didn't know how he died until he died. This may be the most frustrated 10-winged Duke in history, controlling both time and space superpowers at the same time. it's so powerful that it makes people despair. P.S. The plot of the Blood Clan is basically finished. I will start writing about other races later. In addition, I have updated 18,000 words today. Please support, Chapter 74. At dawn, before the sun rises, this civil war involving 7 royal clans finally came to an end. The Toledo clan was destroyed. From now on, there will only be one royal family surname on the land of the Kingdom of Nicara, Capet. Of course, most of the Toledo clan were captured and surrendered voluntarily. Queen Elizabeth I gave the owners of the Toledo clan 2 choices, either die or surrender. In the end, the Toledo clan was deprived of the title of royal family, but retained the status of ordinary nobles, and became a vassal of the Capet clan and a branch of Capet. This is the right choice. After all, if you can't beat them, join them. We are all one family. This unprecedented civil war of the Blood Clan ended with the victory of the Capet clan. However, the Blood Clan also paid a very terrible price. The Duke ancestor of the entire Kingdom of Nicara, now only Fang Qingyan is left. All other dukes are dead. The civil war is completely over, but the problem of foreign invasion has become a new problem that troubles Elizabeth. In the past, the Blood Clan had 7 ancestors in charge, and the comprehensive national strength was extremely strong. There are many neighboring countries, but only Azeroth dares to provoke the vampires. After Azeroth angered the vampires, the 4 dukes came out and ravaged the orcs until they cried for their parents. This also shocked the surrounding countries and races. Chapter 58. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But now, the civil war in the Kingdom of Nicara has directly sent away 6 royal clans, leaving only the ancestor of the Capet clan, who is afraid that he can't stand alone. For a time, the joy of victory of unifying the country was diluted a lot, so Elizabeth is very busy, very busy, very busy. Every day, she has to deal with many things across the country, clean up the mess after the war, and reward the soldiers who have made military achievements, granting blood and titles, granting fiefs, unifying currency, formulating new taxes, and issuing new laws. In short, a basket of things makes Her Majesty the Queen overwhelmed. Since returning to the court, a month has passed. Fang Qingyan waited in his room for a few days, waiting for Elizabeth to confess. But this girl seemed too busy, and forgot about it. This surprised him a little. He was ready to accept Elizabeth's confession reluctantly. This day, Fang Qingyan, as usual, lay in the coffin in the room, took a drop of the prince's blood, and began to meditate. His body was surrounded by a strange and beautiful blood lotus. After practicing, feeling the growth of blood, Fang Qingyan couldn't help but smile. At the same time, he did not give up the development of superpowers. The battle with Adolf made Fang Qingyan pay more attention to superpowers. Being able to control time and space is indeed against the sky, but you can't be proud and complacent. If the body is strong enough, you can tear open the space. Just like Adolf before, after going berserk, the space ability was almost ineffective for him. Similarly, time stop may not work against extremely powerful enemies, so these 2 superpowers must continue to be developed and tap their potential. As for the advancement of 12-winged blood ancestor, this is a very long process. Even with a steady supply of prince's blood, Fang Qingyan feels very difficult. Moreover, he will not break through the prince rashly. At least, we have to figure out one thing first. Why did all the princes who claimed to be immortal fall? And the most bizarre thing is that there is no historical record of what happened when the 9 princes fell in history. It's as if they disappeared out of thin air. Without figuring this out, Fang Qingyan dared not advance to the prince. What if there is any trick in it, and he rushed directly? Wouldn't God give him a big shock? When my blood reaches the peak of the 10-winged duke, I will go to the prince's tomb that Castain mentioned. Fang Qingyan murmured, reaching out to touch the necklace on his neck. When he was about to close his eyes and continue practicing, he suddenly froze for a moment, and a gleam of brilliance bloomed in his black eyes. His mental power sensed that Elizabeth retreated from the palace and came straight to the direction of the library. She's coming. We have to prepare. Fang Qingyan climbed out of the coffin and turned the blood lotus into lotus seeds and put them into his backpack. Then he walked to the closet with a calm expression. After opening it, he chose a more solemn and handsome outfit to put on, and then smoothed his hair in front of the mirror to make sure that he looked completely in line with the temperament of a gentleman. Then he sat on the chair and waited quietly. After all, this was the first time in his life that he accepted a girl's confession. Creak. Edward, I. Elizabeth pushed the door open and was stunned when she saw Fang Qingyan in front of her. Then, a look of amazement surged in her beautiful blue eyes. He changed his clothes and combed his hair. Fang Qingyan showed a very contagious smile. Elizabeth, you are here. I'm sorry, I've been too busy lately. Elizabeth was stared at by him, and her pretty face was slightly rosy. She whispered, I just finished all the government affairs and ran over here. I didn't have time to change my clothes. I guess there will be a lot of things waiting for me tonight. Yeah. Fang Qingyan nodded, and he didn't intend to waste any more time. He took off the bronze key from his neck and asked her directly, Come on, tell me, what is the meaning behind this key? This. Elizabeth was embarrassed again, her face was red as if steaming, and her two little hands were rubbed together anxiously. Fang Qingyan continued to stare at her and said seriously, You said you would tell me, you are the queen, and you are not joking. While speaking, he took 2 steps forward and walked in front of Elizabeth, with an aggressive momentum. Elizabeth couldn't help but take a step back, trying to distance herself. However, Fang Qingyan followed up with a step and continued to hold on. She was extremely nervous, her eyes dodging. Or, tell me tomorrow. Then don't tell me forever. Fang Qingyan narrowed his eyes. No. I have to tell you. Elizabeth said hurriedly, and then she realized that her reaction was too much, and immediately the red cloud spread from her cheeks to her fair neck. That she took a deep breath, mustered up her courage, and looked at Fang Qingyan's eyes with her beautiful eyes dodging, and her crisp and beautiful voice was very trembling. This key is. I gave it to. She stuttered, and the more she spoke, the redder her face became, and the more panic in her eyes became. Fang Qingyan narrowed his eyes, and a cunning look appeared at the corner of his mouth. Why don't you say it, that this is too cute? Suddenly, Elizabeth clenched her fists, with a ruthless look in her eyes, like a beast in dire straits, turning around and launching a counterattack at the hunter without fear of death. She raised her head suddenly, rushed forward and grabbed Fang Qingyan's collar arbitrarily, stood on tiptoes, Zhao Li's, and leaned her head against her. Elizabeth closed her eyes, her beautiful little face was red with blood, but she also revealed a determination to fight for it. Instead of just talking and moaning, it's better to take action directly and kill the enemy quickly and neatly. This is what she learned after becoming Her Majesty the Queen. Fang Qingyan's eyes suddenly widened. Damn it. Elizabeth, you use force to sneak attack on my ancestor. Young man, you have no martial ethics. Then don't blame me. Fang Qingyan grabbed Elizabeth, and she let out a cry of surprise, and then felt her body flying up. Before he could react, Fang Qingyan kidnapped him into the coffin. Bang! Knowledge. There was a muffled sound and the coffin lid was closed. After a few minutes, the people reading downstairs frowned. Is this decoration upstairs? P.S. I don't dare to drive, even this is very risky, please understand. Also, please support, Chapter 7.5. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours later, Elizabeth lay on the edge of the coffin to rest and regain her strength, her fair and beautiful forehead filled with drops of crystal, her beautiful face was filled with happiness and joy. She looked at Fang Qingyan beside her tenderly, her beautiful aqua eyes filled with deep love. I still have a lot of government affairs to be busy with. Elizabeth blushed, her eyes a little apologetic. As the queen of the Nikala kingdom, she has many things to do every day, so she cannot stay with him every day. Fang Qingyan stood up and smiled at her. It doesn't matter. Come over when you are free. I'm used to being alone. Elizabeth smiled sweetly and said in a doting voice, If you miss me, you can come to me at any time. When the time is right, I will disclose our relationship to the kingdom. It is a great blessing to be with the one you love. Even happier is that the person you love also loves you. Elizabeth feels that she is luckier than her mother and luckier than her father. After Elizabeth left, Fang Qingyan was silent for a long time. She kept nothing secret from herself and was honest with her, but Fang Qingyan has not yet told Elizabeth that he pretended to be the ancestor of their Cape clan. Now, after the relationship between the two lovers was broken, being called Ancestor by Elizabeth again made Fang Qingyan feel weird and awkward, but what to tell her? She will know about the death of her ancestors. This was a big blow to the Cape clan. Maybe, just tell her the truth, but you have to find a good time. Time flies, just 1 month has passed. On this day, Elizabeth was as usual. After handling government affairs, she took the time to come to the library. Coming. Fang Qingyan looked at Elizabeth, who opened the door and entered. Chapter 59. You are listening at novelfull.audio. She is becoming more and more beautiful and charming, and more like a queen, but today Elizabeth has a mysterious smile on her face. I have a gift for you, she said to Fang Qingyan. This surprised Fang Qingyan, and he blinked. Take it out. Elizabeth stretched out her little hand and handed over a beautiful gift box, her beautiful eyes full of expectation. Open it and take a look. Mysterious, Fang Qingyan reached out and took the box. After opening it, he looked inside and his eyes widened. In the box, there is a drop of blood essence, crimson and moist, exuding a powerful breath of life. What Elizabeth gave him was a drop of Duke's blood. Once our relationship becomes public, we will definitely face opposition from many people in the family. Elizabeth pursed her lips, and her beautiful little face was filled with a serious look. You are only at the Baron level. I won't mind, but the rest of the family will definitely not agree with us being together. So I will give your essence, and blood will help you advance. This drop of essence and blood is enough for you to use many times. When you reach the Count, everyone will be able to accept it. Her attitude was sincere. It's considered well-intentioned. After all, it is really outrageous to say that the husband-in-law of Her Majesty the Queen is just a young baron. But the problem is, you gave me the essence and blood I gave you yesterday as a gift today. The corners of Fang Qingyan's mouth twitched. He looked up into Elizabeth's eyes, which were full of concern and love. Fang Qingyan suddenly fell silent. Bang! He closed the lid and handed it back to Elizabeth. What's wrong? Elizabeth was stunned. Fang Qingyan looked at her and said calmly, Elizabeth, it seems that there are some things that we need to make clear. What do you want to say? Elizabeth looked at him nervously and uneasily. She didn't know why Fang Qingyan was so serious. Does being with me make you stressed? I'm sorry, Fang Qingyan shook his head. He looked at her calmly, then raised his right hand. Snap your fingers. Suddenly, the surrounding space was distorted, the sceneries changed, and the light flew by. When Elizabeth came back to her senses, she found that the two of them were no longer in Fang Qingyan's room. Is this here? Her beautiful eyes were full of shock and dullness, and she looked around in disbelief. Is this the secret room of the underground palace? Edward, how did you do it? Elizabeth looked at Fang Qingyan with doubtful eyes. With a snap of her fingers, she was transferred from the room to the secret room. To be precise, this is the retreat room of William Capet, the ancestor of your Capet clan. Fang Qingyan shook his head and said to her. Elizabeth was even more shocked. Her mouth opened wide and her eyes stared blankly at Fang Qingyan. How did you know this place? No one from the entire Cape clan has ever entered the secluded chamber of our ancestors, but judging from Fang Qingyan's skillful movements, it's probably not his first time. It's very troublesome to explain anyway. Fang Qingyan shrugged helplessly. Let's just let you see the facts. Before Elizabeth could even think about it, she saw him raising his hand and waving. A ravine opened in the ground, and a deep pit appeared. Elizabeth subconsciously looked towards the bottom of the pit and screamed immediately. There was a look of horror in her beautiful eyes, and her body couldn't stop trembling. At the bottom of the pit, a mostly rotted corpse lay quietly there. Behind his back, 10 huge wings were stacked one on top of another like palm leaves, wrapping the bones in the middle. Very visually stunning. This is Ancestor William. Elizabeth recognized the identity of the corpse from the clothes and accessories, and tears burst into her eyes. Why did the ancestor die? It was obviously fine yesterday and he gave her blood essence. Her heart trembled, and she felt a great sadness. Suddenly, she thought of something and turned back suddenly. Edward, then you. The sound stopped suddenly. Elizabeth looked extremely shocked and looked numbly at Fang Qingyan in front of her. His slender body stood upright, his hands hanging down naturally, his expression very calm. Behind him, 10 blood-red holy wings spread out, stretching across the east and west sides of the entire secret room. Each wing was gently rhythmic, magnificent and majestic, weird and beautiful. He looked at her calmly and said softly, "Actually, your ancestors have fallen for thousands of years." A bolt from the blue flashed through Elizabeth's mind. She got it. Got it all. When Arnold and his group knocked on the door, it was not the ancestors who stepped in to protect them, but him. When my father was seriously injured and dying, it was not my ancestor who rescued my father, but him. Duke Adolf arrived at Bristol, and it was not his ancestors who scared him away, but him. He was also the one who led the entire clan to destroy Riefnor and kill Adolf and Angus. In the end, he is still the one who gave me blood and essence. Tears welled up in my eyes and overflowed into the river. Elizabeth threw herself into his arms and cried loudly, "It turns out that the person who helped me, supported me, protected me, and guided me was not my ancestors, but my lover, Edward Dracula." Her tears were not shed because of the death of her ancestor William. Rather, she was moved to tears by the things her lover did to her. P.S. Please support me. Chapter 76. Elizabeth held Fang Qingyan and cried for a long time. Ever since her father died and she became queen, she has always felt lonely, even scared and frightened. Because no one will protect her from the wind and rain like Marquis Morpheus, Elizabeth needs to face one powerful enemy after another in person and find a way to solve internal and external troubles. She didn't dare to relax at all. She was afraid that if she relaxed, her clan members would die, Fang Qingyan would die, and the Cape clan would die. Although she admired Fang Qingyan and often went to the library to find him, she never brought her grievances, sadness, worries and melancholy into the library. Every time she went to see Fang Qingyan, she tried her best to look like a carefree person. A considerate, confident, brave, and strategizing queen, because Fang Qingyan is just a little barren and weak. Even if you confide your inner pressure to him, he won't be able to help you. Instead, he will also feel the pressure. In short, after her father's death, Elizabeth had no one to rely on. If her ancestors weren't still here, she might have collapsed, but now, she knew the truth. Know that you are never alone. A long-lost feeling arose in Elizabeth's heart, a sense of security that someone could rely on. Her man is a man of terrifying strength and invincibility. He is a 10-winged duke who can kill half-step prince. Cuddled up for a long time, she gradually stopped crying, raised her beautiful little face, and looked at Fang Qingyan with a pair of beautiful eyes tenderly, her face covered with tears. "Thank you, Edward." Elizabeth pursed her red lips lightly and said in a beautiful voice, "Thank you for everything you have done for me. You are already my woman." Fang Qingyan smiled lightly, stretched out his hand to wipe away her tears, and said calmly, "You don't need to say thank you to me. Besides, a large part of the reason why I did these things for you is because of an old count who has passed away." "Old Earl?" Elizabeth looked confused. "Do I know him?" "You have met him once, and his blood is flowing in your body. He is your biological father." Fang Qingyan said with a smile, astonishing words. Elizabeth's eyes suddenly widened. "Are you serious? Do you know who my biological father is?" But immediately, she seemed to have thought of something, lowered her head, bit her lip lightly with her teeth, and showed a hint of stubbornness in her beautiful eyes. "Forget it, you don't need to tell me about him. He abandoned us mother and daughter, and my family fell apart because of him. He only contributed a little liquid. It was my mother who gave birth to me, and he was not the one who raised me. I have only one father, and that's Morpheus Cap." In fact, ever since Morpheus told her that she was not his biological daughter, Elizabeth had begun to think about searching for her biological father. She wanted to know what kind of man could make her mother die for her love. "I want to know who is the love rival who made my father regret his whole life and completely defeated him. Want to know what this scumbag who has never dared to recognize his own daughter looks like." But later the idea was squashed. Chapter 60. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Because she doesn't want to meet a father who doesn't love his wife and daughter. Oh, how should I put it? Fang Qingyan shook his head and sighed. "Don't think so. He is actually a miserable man, but the way he expresses his father's love is different from that of Morpheus. After saying that, he lowered his head and pondered for 2 seconds, and then said to Elizabeth, "Forget it, I will take you to another place." Snap, raising his hand and snapping his fingers, a clear voice echoed, the space was distorted buzzingly, shaking like ripples, and the surrounding scenery flew by, the former territory of the Brooke clan, 100 miles east of the city of Lahmia. The space above an abandoned and dilapidated castle is distorted. Fang Qingyan took Elizabeth down. "Here it is." Elizabeth looked around. The castle was very desolate, empty and quiet, with not a single person in sight. The garden was overgrown and barren, the ground was covered with dead leaves and dust, a decadent and dilapidated scene. It was obvious that the castle had been abandoned. She didn't know why Fang Qingyan brought her here, so he cast a questioning look at him. "Come with me." Fang Qingyan said lightly and led the way. Elizabeth's beautiful eyes looked hesitant for a moment, then she lifted up her skirt and followed quickly. Not long after, arriving at the backyard of the castle, in front of me, a tomb appeared. The tombstone had been covered by half-meter-high weeds. It was unclear what the name of the tomb owner sleeping here was. "I haven't seen you for many years, Castain." Fang Qingyan knelt down and pushed aside the weeds, revealing the entire tombstone. There was a faint smile on his lips. Elizabeth stared intently at the tombstone, with an epitaph engraved on it. He had a rough life, but he had a proud daughter named Elizabeth. Her eyes were slightly red, she pursed her lips tightly, clenched her pink fists, and her graceful body trembled slightly. It was obvious that her mood was not calm. Elizabeth felt a twinge of sadness. No matter how much she disliked this man, this was her biological father's grave after all. "The story of your biological father, Castain, begins here. My story also begins here." Fang Qingyan stood up, put his hands behind his back, and looked at Elizabeth with deep and calm eyes. "Which one do you want to hear first? Ask for flowers." Elizabeth took a deep breath and tried to keep her voice calm, but her vocal cords still trembled slightly uncontrollably. "Then, first, tell me about him first." Fang Qingyan nodded, then he began to tell about Castain's life. "It starts from the first time I entered Castain Castle as a servant. It is said that Castain came back from the battlefield and was reduced to a useless man, and his life was not long." Also talking about what Castain told Fang Qingyan about his love story with Camilla. Then Fang Qingyan took Castain into Fort Jetson to fulfill his last wish of wanting to see his daughter. Finally, we get to the letter that Castain left for Fang Qingyan. After everything is said and done, Elizabeth was already bursting into tears. She knelt down and gently rubbed the mottled tombstone with her small white hands. From Fang Qingyan's words, she knew that her biological father actually loved her deeply, and Castain also loved her mother Camilla, but the cruel reality forced the old earl to keep all his love in his heart. He knew very well that as a princess of the Cape royal family, his daughter would have the best life in the world, but Castain himself could not give his daughter anything. Not recognizing his daughter is the only love he can give Elizabeth. "I don't hate you anymore, father." Elizabeth took a deep breath and choked up. "Say it." She felt much more relaxed all over. "The knot is over, she has completely recovered from her mother's suicide, the resentment in my heart towards Castain, his biological father, has all disappeared. It can only be said that the love between Castain, Camilla and Morpheus is a destined tragedy." Elizabeth stood up, with a bright smile on her beautiful face, stretched out her hand to hold Fang Qingyan's arm, and said in a sweet and pleasant voice, "My dear, let's go back." "Are you really okay?" Fang Qingyan looked at her doubtfully. Wasn't she stimulated? "I once had 2 fathers who loved me very much. This is an enviable blessing." Elizabeth pouted and said, then winked playfully, "It's just that when sweeping the grave every year, the workload is a little heavier than others." It's quite humorous. "Then it seems like everything is fine." She seemed to have returned to the innocent, laughing and optimistic princess she had been before, but in fact, Fang Qingyan knew, Elizabeth has not changed back, but has completely grown and matured. P.S. Xiaopuji asks for your support. Forced Chapter 77. Fang Qingyan left Castain Castle with Elizabeth, returned to Bristol City. He said everything he could about his own story, but he didn't say anything about things like system that didn't need to be said. Elizabeth is a very smart queen. She also knows what to ask and what not to ask. The death of the ancestor, the library manager is a hidden duke. The past of her biological father Castain. After this series of extremely shocking things, Elizabeth felt as if she had a dream. Reality is always more exciting than stories. What are you going to do next? Fang Qingyan looked at her and asked lightly, if you want to tell the truth to your people, I personally don't care. Even if the people of the Capet clan knew that Fang Qingyan was not their real ancestor, so what? He is the strongest in the entire blood clan. He is the only remaining Duke of Nicara. They still have to kneel down and beg Fang Qingyan to continue to be their ancestor, sit in the Capet clan, and protect the kingdom of Nicara. After all, the 7 royal families of the blood clan were wiped out this time, leaving only one. It can be said that it was a serious injury. It was the time when the power of the Nicara kingdom was the weakest. They needed Fang Qingyan, and they could not do without Fang Qingyan. I think it is better not to tell the clan members for the time being. Elizabeth frowned her beautiful eyebrows. Now the people of the kingdom are united, and the clan members are enthusiastic. It is not appropriate to shake their confidence. Then she suddenly smiled and said, although the ancestor of the Capet clan is gone, the man of the queen of the Capet clan is still there. Fang Qingyan nodded and smiled lightly. It's up to you. It happens that I am also a lazy person who hates trouble. I just want to practice quietly. Elizabeth hesitated for a moment, and then looked at Fang Qingyan with her blue eyes and said softly, I know you have done a lot for us. When the situation in the kingdom is stabilized, I will find an opportunity to announce the death of the ancestor and tell everyone the truth. Fang Qingyan shrugged indifferently. He has always been indifferent to fame and fortune. I wish no one would disturb my practice forever. Life is back to its original track, peaceful and comfortable. The only difference is that Fang Qingyan no longer needs to go to the library. After all, the relationship with Elizabeth has been exposed, so he no longer needs the identity of the librarian as a cover. Elizabeth ordered people to repair the forbidden underground palace inside and out. It is magnificent and gorgeously decorated. It doesn't look like the place where people who practice asceticism live at all. It looks like a luxurious underground palace of the emperor. Fang Qingyan was very speechless about this. But Elizabeth's reason is, she used to respect the ancestors, so she didn't dare to disturb them too much, but now, since it is for Fang Qingyan, she must give her man the best living treatment. As for the outside world, no one found anything wrong. If you insist on saying there are 2 places. First, the smile on Her Majesty's face is sweeter than before, and she is more optimistic and positive. Second, the number of times Her Majesty went to the underground palace to see the ancestors has increased significantly and more frequently.